With Phase 2 of the Marvel movies now complete, let's catch up on all the major happenings in this stage of the MCU. Spoilers obviously follow. This is the story of Marvel's Phase 2. Things kicked off with Iron Man 3, where Tony Stark was still reeling from the events of the first Avengers movie. It seems fighting an alien horde, flying through a wormhole, and almost sacrificing yourself via nuclear explosion takes a toll. So he's built a ton of new Iron Man suits because, you know, insomnia. Meanwhile, a new threat has emerged. A shadowy figure called the Mandarin has been orchestrating a series of terrorist bombings. That includes Tony's awesome seaside mansion and his cute little robots. Luckily, Tony's AI Jarvis is able to get him to safety, well, to Tennessee at least, but with his armor out of commission, all Tony has is his smarts and a new kid sidekick to uncover the truth about the bombings. Because he can't just call the Avengers for some reason, just go with it, okay? It turns out, the explosions were all the result of scientists Aldrich Killian and Maya Henson's experimental treatment Extremis. The serum gives its users superpowers, but can also have the side effect of turning them into living bombs. Stark makes his way to the Mandarin's headquarters, which he infiltrates 1980s action movie style with a touch of MacGyver. Only once he gets in, he finds out that the Mandarin is just a confused actor playing a part. Killian is actually calling shots. It was here that a million fanboys cried out in terror at this deviation from the source material. Side note, eventually the short film All Hail the King would reveal that Killian wasn't the Mandarin either, and that the real deal is still out there somewhere. Killian kidnaps Tony's girlfriend Pepper Potts and exposes her to Extremis. He also plans to murder the president, who is totally that guy you recognize from that movie whose name you can't remember, teaming up with his pal Rhodey. Tony is finally able to summon his fleet of Iron Man armors in a final battle with Killian, but it's up to a now super-powered Pepper to win the day. Tony then destroys all his armor, has the shrapnel removed from his chest, fixes Extremis, cures Pepper, and recovers his cute little robots. He doesn't even need his chest reactor anymore, but still.
I am Iron Man.
Next up was Thor: The Dark World. Thor's kinda sorta girlfriend Jane Foster is doing her scientist thing in London when she stumbles upon a long-hidden and powerful weapon called the Ether, and promptly fuses with it. Bad idea. This leads Thor to finally return to Earth and Jane, which means he has to explain why he was able to come back to hang with the Avengers, but not with his kinda sorta girlfriend until now. Still, the Thunder God makes up for it by taking Jane to Asgard to meet his parents and figure out this whole infected by the Ether thing. But the return of the super weapon also means the return of the Dark Elf Malekith, who had once fought Thor's grandfather for the Ether and lost. Reawakening from Cloud City Carbonite, Malekith stages a major attack on Asgard in search of the weapon. The Dark Elf and his servant Cursed wind up fleeing without their prize, but not before they kill Thor's mom. At least we got to see how kick-ass she could be though. Speaking of which, Loki, imprisoned in the dungeons of Asgard ever since the end of the Avengers, teams with Thor to avenge their mother and also save Jane, and the universe in fact, for a rare cosmic event called the Convergence is conveniently approaching, which will link the 9 realms together via dimensional portals and allow Malekith to send reality into darkness. Because if you're a dark elf, what's better than complete and utter darkness? The brothers confront Malekith, with Loki sacrificing himself as Jane is freed from the Ether. But the villain escapes, now having merged with the gooey superweapon himself. A final battle of realm-jumping craziness takes place, culminating in Thor quite literally taking his enemy apart. And a reminder that a Thunder God's best friend is his hammer. Once the dust settles, the Ether is sent to presumptive safety with the wacky alien the Collector. Thor chooses Jane and Earth over the throne of Asgard, and Loki is revealed to in fact still be alive and impersonating his father as king. Because one does not simply kill off Tom Hiddleston. Captain America the Winter Soldier was next. Cap is now working as a globe-trotting agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. But while on a mission with fellow agents Romanoff and Rumlow, he realizes that Nick Fury is keeping secrets from him. But come on, Cap. Secrets are what Fury does best. Cap confronts Fury, who reveals Project Insight, a plan involving 3 super heli-characters that can take out threats before they even become threats. This doesn't sit well with Captain Goody Two-Shoes, but there isn't time to argue over it because a mysterious assassin called the Winter Soldier seemingly kills Fury. Not just that, but S.H.I.E.L.D. has been compromised too. Cap is jumped by like a dozen fellow agents, so he reminds them what the super and super soldier means. Fury's boss, Alexander Pierce, is now calling the shots, and he wants Cap eliminated. He's also the one behind the Winter Soldier, who it turns out is actually a brainwashed Bucky, Captain America's old partner from World War II. Cap and Black Widow go on the run and discover that Arnim Zola's mind still lives, in a way, in an underground S.H.I.E.L.D. computer. Cap realizes that his old foes from the war, the villainous group Hydra, were never actually defeated and are in fact as strong as ever, having gestated in the belly of S.H.I.E.L.D. for decades. And Pierce is one of Hydra's senior members. Robert Redford as a bad guy? Mind blown. Side note number 2. This tied directly into the Marvel TV series Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which saw its status quo upended as Agent Coulson realized that Hydra was everywhere. Cap and Black Widow team with S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Maria Hill, an ex-soldier with mechanical falcon wings, and a not-so-dead Nick Fury. He got better. With Pierce about to launch Project Insight, a 3-way battle goes down. Cap disables the helicarriers and takes on Bucky, the Falcon faces off with Agent Rumlow, and Black Widow leaks S.H.I.E.L.'s classified database to the world in order to expose Hydra. Fury, meanwhile, takes out Pierce. When it's all over, the Winter Soldier saves Cap from drowning before he disappears himself. With S.H.I.E.L.D. in pieces, Cap and the Falcon decide to track down Bucky, Fury goes off to pursue Hydra, and Black Widow gets to act really cool in front of a Senate subcommittee. Next, we jumped across the galaxy to meet the Guardians of the Galaxy. We first see young Peter Quill the night of his mother's death on Earth when he was abducted by the spacefaring bandits, the Ravagers. Years later, a now adult Quill, who prefers the name Star-Lord, is an experienced thief himself. After stealing a mysterious device called the Orb, Quill is arrested by the intergalactic peacekeeping force, the Nova Corps. Also taken into custody and imprisoned are the Talking Tree Groot, the genetically altered Raccoon Rocket, and the lethal warrior Gamora. The group also meets Drax, a literal-minded strongman who seeks revenge against Gamora's former master, the villainous Ronan. And Ronan's working for Thanos, the big bad guy spotted at the end of the first Avengers movie. Gamora has betrayed Ronan because he plans to use the orb to destroy worlds, but she knows of an interested and safer party who's willing to buy the weapon instead. This unlikely team of outcasts executes a prison break and heads to Nowhere, the space station where their buyer lives. He's Tanalir Tavan, the Collector, and he explains that the orb is in fact one of the Infinity Stones, just like the Ether from Thor the Dark World and the Tesseract from the Avengers. But the Collector's assistant activates the orb, unleashing a deadly blast of energy. At the same time, Ronan shows up with Gamora's sister Nebula, and everything goes to hell. Quill's old frenemy and mentor, the Ravager Yondu, saves him and Gamora from an icy death in space. After agreeing to work together, Quill's team and the Ravagers confront Ronan, who now has the stone. Gamora defeats Nebula, who escapes, and Ronan's ship, the Dark Aster, crashes during an attack on the Nova homeworld Xandar. Groot sacrifices himself to save his friends, and everyone watching gets all teary-eyed. Come on, you know you did. A kinda sorta dance-off between Quill and Ronan follows, but it's the combined effort of the Guardians, who share the dangerous power of the stone, that destroys the villain. The Nova Corps takes custody of the orb, the Guardians are pardoned for their crimes, Quill learns that his missing father is not from Earth but is actually an alien, and Groot is reborn as Baby Groot. Back on Earth, the Avengers assembled again for Age of Ultron. We find them attacking a secret Hydra base in the Faco country Sokovia. Baron von Strucker has been experimenting on people with Loki's Spectre from the first Avengers, but the only survivors of these experiments are the twins Pietro Maximoff, who's now super speedy as a result, and his sister Wanda Maximoff, who has reality warping powers, or something. The Avengers defeat von Strucker and take the scepter back to New York to party. Tony Stark and Bruce Banner decide to use the scepter, which has an Infinity Stone in it, to complete the AI program they've been working on. Called Ultron, it was meant to be a worldwide defense program, but when Ultron awakens, it decides that the best defense is a good offense. In order to save Earth, it must destroy mankind. Avengers assemble. Ultron teams up with the twins, who pretty much kick the Avengers' butts when the witch makes them experience their worst nightmares. That includes a Hulk vs. Iron Man fight that literally brings the house down. Ultron also obtains some indestructible vibranium, that's the stuff Cap's shield is made of, from arms dealer Ulysses Claw. Spoilers, he's the enemy of future Avenger Black Panther. The Avengers regroup at Hawkeye's secluded farmhouse, because it turns out Hawkeye has a secluded farmhouse, and a wife, and kids, and a tractor. Nick Fury shows up to give a pep talk, but Thor splits to investigate the vision he had about the Infinity Stones while under Wanda's spell. Meanwhile, Ultron is off creating the perfect body for himself out of the stolen vibranium, something called synthetic tissue, and the Scepter's Infinity Stone. But the Avengers manage to grab the body, and Stark uploads his faithful AI Jarvis into the thing, with Thor bringing the whole shebang to life. Useful, that Thunder God lightning. The resulting creation is the Vision, and he elects to help the Avengers in a final battle against Ultron, as do Pietro and Wanda, who learn of Ultron's true evil plan. Back in Sokovia, Ultron is causing an entire city to float into the sky. The mad robot plans to then drop it to the ground, which will bring about an extinction-level event a la the dinosaurs. It's Earth's mightiest heroes versus an army of Ultron bots, but of course the Avengers pull it out in the end. Pietro dies, saving Hawkeye, however, and the Hulk leaves for parts unknown despite, or perhaps because of, his burgeoning love affair with Black Widow. Back home, the Avengers set up a new headquarters and a new team, with most of the original members leaving the roster for now. But somewhere deep in space, we see that Thanos is done waiting for the Infinity Stones. A war is brewing. Phase 2 came to an end with AntMan, the tale of regular guy Scott Lang. He's just gotten out of jail and is trying to find a job so he can pay child support and see his daughter Cassie. After falling back on his cat burglar ways, Scott breaks into brilliant scientist Hank Pym's house, but all he finds is what he thinks is an old motorcycle suit. However, when he puts the thing on, he realizes that it actually has shrinking properties. Scott has become an Ant-Man, which is a lot cooler than it sounds. But rather than pressing charges, Pym tells Scott that he needs his help. He wants to steal the technology that his former protege, Darren Cross, has developed that mimics the Ant-Man suit. Called Yellow Jacket, Cross plans on using it as a weapon and selling it to the highest bidder. Pym and his daughter, Hope Van Dyne, train Scott in the use of the suit in preparation for the heist. Although Hope resents her father for the death of her mother, who fought alongside Pym as the Wasp when he was Ant-Man during the Cold War. She was lost in something called the Quantum Realm after becoming infinitely smaller and smaller. This is a fate that Scott could also face if he's not careful, so yeah, yikes. After fighting the Falcon while recovering a piece of Pym tech needed for their plan, Scott destroys Cross's facility and the Yellow Jacket research, but Cross escapes, and a miniature battle ensues. It all culminates in Cassie's bedroom, with Scott almost being lost in the Quantum Realm just like the Wasp. But he's able to return to his regular size while destroying Cross's suit and defeating him. He also creates a giant ant, which is just weird. Now on good terms with his ex-wife, Scott and his daughter are reunited. Pym reveals a new Wasp suit to Hope, which will finally give her the chance to be a hero, and Scott learns that the Falcon has been looking for him. Speaking of which, the mid-credits scene shows the Falcon and Cap, who seem to have taken the Winter Soldier captive. They agree they can't call on Tony Stark for help for some reason, but the Falcon says he knows a guy, a clear reference to Ant-Man. We'll have to wait for Phase 3 for that story when Captain America: Civil War debuts.